Welcome back to Sparks Gaming. This is the 4th episode of my Frodo challenge, where last time we left off in a not-so-ideal situation. And if you haven't seen my prior 3 episodes, I highly recommend you check them out. But if not, I'll give you the recap of last time in exchange for your subscription. Alright, so assuming you held up your end of the deal, here's the need to know. Last time, we once again killed the owlbear and looted its cave before meeting Scratch and making sure he could find his way back to our camp. We then killed Karlach, who Will was hunting, and brought her head to the Paladins of Tyr, who we also murdered because how dare they make us do such a horrible thing. Following this, we made our way to the Goblin camp where we sold our useless junk and got into a fight with some drunk partygoers who I failed to kill in their sleep. We then took a long rest where I had a conversation with Gandalf, and then we told Minthara to meet us at the Grove before we freed Halsin. After leaving the Goblin camp, I tried to help free Barkus Root from his green torturers, and almost succeeded before the game forced me into combat against my will. And as we stumbled into this losing situation, that's where we left off. Okay, so now that we've gotten to this point, I'll confess, I slightly misled you. But that's only because I myself have been misled. See, originally I had thought this was the worst possible situation to be in, and I was surely gonna lose the challenge. But after Ferzerk died, all the other goblins ran away screaming, and the combat just ended. Which is a lot less climactic than I hyped it up to be, but you can imagine how happy I was it went like that, cause I've already dumped 10 hours into attempt 3 alone. Anyway, I freed everyone's favorite deep gnome, and he said if I found his backpack, I could keep it as thanks for saving him, which I did. I then ran into some ogres, the leader of which was very intelligent, and I bargained with him in order to get this horn, which will become important later. Following this, I explored a basement in this abandoned house, and found a creature who asked Gandalf to give it a name. The dialogue options were to name it Fork or Spoon or some other things following the same pattern of its original name, which was Shovel, but of course I had to name it Smeagol, or Gollum, whichever you prefer. Anyway, Smeagol led us to this super cursed book that he said his prior master used to obsess over, which was locked behind some magic bullshittery and needed a gemstone to open. So I just put it in my bag and moved on. Now, from this point on, I had to make a decision, because while I was very tempted to jump down this well and go kill the Spider Monarch, that fight has never gone well for me on attempt 1, and this holds true for almost all my playthroughs. But you know me, and I know how to respectfully treat the voice of reason. That is to push it to the ground and kick the shit out of it until it stops talking, cause we're going down this well, baby, and my 2 previously failed runs silently crying in the corner can't stop me. Oh, did I mention we're not even level 5 yet? Well, if I don't immediately regret my decisions, how do I know I even made them in the first place, you know? Anyway, you arrived just in time to see me juggle the first battle within the well. We aren't even to the Monarch yet, and this is how it's going. Perhaps this was a sign for me to turn around and come back later, but hey, wait a minute. Voice of reason, is that you? No. You can't run from me. You can't hide from me. I felt your presence lurking the second the thought of making good choices crossed my mind. These thoughts of carefully and meticulously plotting out my every move, thoughts of making strategical retreats that would preserve this run into a future where I could say I beat it? No. Things are only gonna get worse for you from here on out. You are now my hostage, forced to witness every stupid and avoidable consequence that I will thrust upon us both for the foreseeable future. Retreat? What do you take me for? This time, you won't escape. Oh, you guys didn't hear any of that, did you? Okay, just checking. Anyway, where was I? So, regardless of the pushback, we successfully beat the fight, and I decided to take a long rest before taking on the Queen. During the long rest, I pet Scratch, met with Gandalf, who had briefly returned from his wizarding business, and watched as Lae'zel got her eye plucked out by a bard who had said the equivalent of, "Trust me, I'm a professional." Anyway, I think that just about sets the mood for a Spider Queen fight, so buckle up, I hope you're ready. As the battle starts and the Spider Queen becomes aware of my presence, oh, he's returned again. What did I tell you? I don't need your help. You are at my mercy, not I yours. So, oh my dear voice of reason, I'll tell you again, do not speak or struggle against the ever-turning clock of inevitability, unless... Oh, hey, that's actually not a bad idea. If you keep making suggestions like that, perhaps I'll let you see your wife and kids. You guys gotta let me know when this joke crosses the line. Regardless, I did in fact have an idea to potentially make it out of this in one piece. And that idea was, drum roll please, or I guess in this case horn blow, to add more allies to our action economy by summoning the ogres we had previously made friends with to kill the Spider Monarch for us. I was kind of expecting 3 ogres, but they pulled up in an all-for-one amalgamation of ogre kind and then proceeded to duplicate from the original seemingly as one being. It was, interesting to say the least. Anyway, the ogre, or ogres, who apparently think they're duplicate from immediately have 2 copies gang up on a phase spider who's backed into a corner, and send the 3rd copy across the web where he gets trapped, cause of course he did. Next, Lae'zel uses her Githyanki jump ability to get right up close to the Spider Monarch, which in hindsight may not have been the best idea if I wanted the ogres to fight it, but the voice of reason is currently tied up in the trunk, so I didn't think to ask him. Regardless, she set up Precision Strike, action surged, and then completely and totally missed her attack. I'm sure you'll get her next time, Lae'zel. And then the Spider Monarch immediately teleported away and made sure our duplo ogres, or multi-monsters, or... There's a pun here, and I will find it. One way or another. Anyway, the spiders made sure they did their job and tanked the brunt of the damage for me. A few more turns passed, the ogre variant who is supposed to be the most intelligent wasted an attack on a baby spider, while the others threw attacks at the bigger ones. 3 baby spiders proceeded to gang up on Lae'zel, and there has never been a more appropriate moment to use Cleave. However, unfortunately, for this combat in particular, I had her equip the Spear of the Absolute, because, well, the weapon is essentially designed for this encounter. So instead, she took multiple opportunity attacks and launched herself over the chasm to the Spider Queen, where she actually managed to hit, doing a shitload of damage. And this also made her the biggest target, who the Spider Monarch dropped to 9 HP in a single attack. Will finished off one of the phase spiders with Eldritch Blast, Gale finished the other with Magic Missile. The ogres clogged up the path on the web, and Lae'zel missed her attack, which is fine because she did a lot of damage on the previous one. I must be lucky because the spider returned to the favor by also missing its attack on Lae'zel, which would have otherwise downed her. Now that the only remaining threats were the Spider Monarch herself and a few baby spiders, my party wailed on her while the ogres decided to do essentially nothing. That is except for the magic one who kept taking out the smaller spiders with Firebolt. Well, apparently, when the Spider Monarch is backed into a corner, that's when things get bad for me. Her baby spiders down Lae'zel. She then teleports away and proceeds to down Will and reduce Gale to 2 hit points, all with 1 attack. I move Frodo silently out of the dark to throw a potion on Will, who attempts to flourish the Spider Monarch and misses. Gale then moves it off to the side and casts Magic Missile on her, and one of our multi-ogre friends gets a critical hit. The Spider Monarch once again teleports away and summons more baby spiders for us to deal with. Frodo heals Lae'zel, and another barrage of magic missiles from Will reduces the Spider Monarch to 9 hit points. The Spider Monarch makes its final return as it severely wounds one of the ogres and re-downs Lae'zel, and with one final cast of magic missile, the Queen is out of the fight. The last of the baby spiders were effectively just cleanup, and while they did somehow down Will, they stood no chance against both my party and the ogres. And as the ogres are likely the only reason I survived that fight, I said I would pay them 500 gold if they agreed to help us again in the future. This seemed to please them, and they continued on their merry way. And what do you know, I found a cool looking rock called the Dark Amethyst that seems to perfectly fit in the open spot of the weird book Smeagol brought us to. And I dare say it would be rude to not indulge in the cursed knowledge not meant to ever see the light of day, so I opened the book to demonic whispering and secrets beyond mortal comprehension. And sure, I'm definitely haunted by the evil lords of the past who want nothing more than to spill my blood and drag me deep into the hells, but hey, at least I can now talk to dead people, so that's a plus. Moving on, we made our way back to the Grove to meet with Minthara, who approved of my accidental handiwork. That, of course, being the complete and total massacre of tieflings and druids alike. And I know I've said it before, but I'll go ahead and say it again. Haha, don't worry, we're the good guys. Anyway, you know how I said a while back recruiting Minthara would end up being a huge mistake? Well, the prophecy has come to pass, and as it turns out, Will only considers the entire grove dead if you trigger Minthara's quest. and as such, as soon as I started making friends with my new genocidal maniac pal, he called me a disgusting monster and booked it. Now, this is especially unfortunate, because not only has he been my party's MVP for the past 2 episodes, but his patron still hasn't given me the magic item I thought I would get for killing Karlach, which in hindsight makes it seem like I murdered her for literally no reason, and I'm just starting to think maybe I've made a couple mistakes that would sway public opinion into thinking we're not in fact the good guys, but hey, it's all for the sake of destroying the One Ring, so I just know that can't be the case. Anyway, to thank me for all the hard work I've done, Minthara made an attempt to murder Frodo in his sleep, because apparently she's an agent of Sauron. And because that's kind of the opposite of the desired result, I had to talk her down and told her I would meet back up with her in the Shadow-Cursed lands, and we could deliver the ring to him together. She's clearly not the brightest, because this was enough for her to leave me alone momentarily. Well, now looking back on my past mistakes and taking a moment of clarity, I considered my next course of action carefully. First things first, I added Shadowheart to the team to fill the void Will had left. And she can replace him, but she can never truly replace him. He was a legend, and he will be missed. Next, I took my frustration out by telling Lae'zel to eat worms, and she surprisingly listened. Like, no, I was joking. Githyanki will eat anything, won't they? I then officially finished looting the Druid's Grove, met with the man who has the coolest Disney villain theme song in the game, and fought some harpies because I needed the XP. I then returned to the Goblin Camp with plans to take out the remaining 2 Goblin leaders, also for the XP, and here is where I find the second reason teaming up with Minthara was a truly awful idea. That reason being because after meeting with her and concluding the Slaughter the Druid's Grove mission, the entire Goblin Camp, along with all the XP they could have provided, up and leave. I see now this is karma for killing Karlach, but have I not suffered enough? I mean, at least since no more goblins are clogging the way, the path to the Underdark is easily accessible to me now, but on the contrary, my new mission is to scavenge the rest of Act 1 for the minuscule scraps of experience points still remaining in my grasp. 'Cause I let the biggest cash cow escape. Well, without any further ado, let the hunt for XP begin. I started by tracing my way back through the Blighted Village, where I interrupted a bugbear and ogre having a private discussion about the economy in Baldur's Gate. Apparently my opinions weren't welcome though, because things got heated really quickly, and it ended with a dead bugbear and ogre, now far less concerned with their financial well-being. Following this, I crossed a collapsed bridge where I ran into some hyenas, and originally my plan was to kill them while they were preoccupied. However, in my attempt to make things quick, I attracted the attention of some nearby gnolls, and had now bitten off far more than I could chew. Well, these motherfuckers can make 3 bow attacks each in a single turn, and I'm just barely level 5, so I'll let you be the judge of how this played out. Alright, so basically, here's the abridged version. The gnolls pull up guns blazing. One of them instantly downs Lae'zel with a rapid-fire bow shot. 2 more run up to Gale and use their spears to drop his hit points from 30 down to 8. Shadowheart does her job as the cleric and heals Lae'zel, getting her back up, and I, for some reason, think it's a good idea to bring Frodo around the corner to help with healing. Newsflash, it wasn't a good idea. Lae'zel immediately drops to 0 hit points again, and this time Frodo decides to join her in the blood pool on the ground. But get this stupid fucking gnoll not only downs Frodo, but he decides he's not gonna stop shooting him, and he makes him auto-fail a death save. Now, at this point, I have a near heart attack as he fails his second one of his own accord. Now, I count myself extremely lucky it was the cleric's turn next, because if it had not been, Frodo may be dead and you'd see the words Attempt 4 pop up on your screen in bold letters. On that note, maybe having Shadowheart on the team isn't such a bad thing.
Hobbit, I see your value now.
That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
Anyway, from this point, I let the voice of reason momentarily give me a page from his book, and had Frodo run the fuck away. And this was clearly the correct decision, because here's a dramatic montage of Frodo running away while everyone else gets brutally slaughtered. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I know Withers sure did, because it put a good amount of gold in his pocket. Speaking of which, I'm not sure what an undead uses the money for, but I'm not complaining. Now that my party was alive again, we set out to get revenge on the stupid gnolls, and here's a much better montage of us slaughtering them. And as I finished getting my taste for sweet revenge, we made our way into a nearby town to find multiple buildings lit aflame. And as I rushed in to investigate the scene, dare I remind you to subscribe for future episodes, cause that's it for this time. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.